Welcome to the Fit Firm Coaching Podcast, the podcast where we explore different topics on fitness and wellness to help you be a better you. Now let's get started with your host, Taylor.
Welcome back to another episode of the Fit Firm Podcast. Today, I have a friend who I've met through my service in the Army. Her name is Alyssa Chavez. She is a bodybuilder, a model, a former drill sergeant, and also a mom. So I'm super excited to have her on the show, talk about her experiences, especially within the military, being a drill sergeant, also transitioning to doing modeling, which I think is super cool. So without further ado, let's bring Alyssa to the show. Hey, what's going on?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yep, super excited to have you on. Even though the Army has people come in and out of our lives, we've always managed to stay in touch in some capacity. So super excited to talk to you about what you've been doing since I think the last time I saw you was 2019.
Yeah, it's been a while. I know.
So it's been a bit.
It hasn't been that long. Like, I really feel like it was just like yesterday, and then we stay in contact. So
yeah, I mean, I remember us going to get pizza like it was, yesterday, and it being Halloween, and
a lot of fun.
Yeah. So let's kick it off with just giving a bit of your background. How did you start your fitness journey? Share what initially kicked that process off for you.
Sure. So I always thought I was fit. I did track up and thought, I should run, do some push-ups, do the APFC and do okay. And so it's bad in the APFC days, done these days. But I realized through basic training, I fractured my hip. And when I fractured my hip, it was not bad enough that I needed a hip replacement or anything like that, but it was enough that I needed physical therapy and I had to have heart change, and it was terrible. And I still had because of the lack of conditioning. And I think that really kind of jarred me. I realized, despite thinking I was fit, despite being able to do really well in APFT, I was not conditioned for, rocking with a lot of weight on your back for long distances, or so much just the stress that it goes on your joints and on your bones and everything. So I kind of got into re-strengthening it, and it took off from there. As I re-strengthened, I learned resistance training, and then kind of got into bodybuilding because I like the aesthetics of it. Size and build pretty solid, but then I realized you can kind of control how you build and how you look.
Sure.
It's fine, but again, so that's how fitness took off for me. I started I had a personal trainer, and I started into the bodybuilding world and really learned, some of the wrong ways to live to get your first strength, and then I learned some of the right ways. So just kind of took off from that. I went about 2016. So.
Okay.
But I thought in 2016 it was a phase, and they're like, "What? She's full of shit." And now it's 2024. People are like, "Oh no, she's serious." So yeah.
So when you got hurt in basic training, did they put you through any physical therapy there, or was it hey, just try and get better, and then we'll put you back into the cycle?
So I actually didn't admit in basic training that I was hurt. I waited until I got 8 out of T because I was like, if I'm not trying to get held over basic training, fuck that. And it was the end. So it was funny, actually. I ran the fastest 2 mile ever because my hip was so loose. I was like, this is great. And then I got to San Antonio, but I actually 2 weeks later, my vital time went up by 3 minutes. I was like, this was a real problem.
Yeah.
So it was really at that point that I actually went and got seen, and they're like, "Yeah, so lovely." Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I got a land of
Okay.
So yeah, so I ended up in physical therapy, and they had a lot of that treadmill that's anti-gravity. It's kind of cool. with like all the, they changed the gravity level. That was really weird. And then they had me doing like some like leg press and other things, and it was just brand new to me because I've never done resistance training aside from like the fitness stuff. So, so that was here in San Antonio, and they was physical therapy. And then when I went through drill sergeant school, I injured it again, but not as bad because I conditioned enough that I was like okay. But I almost fell out, but I didn't. I was so safe. And I had a therapy after that again because it was still like it was better, but not great. So
Yeah, I mean, do you still have to go for physical therapy, or do they have like an official diagnostic as to what the issue is with your hip?
It was at a stage 3 stress fracture. But the way that the stress fracture went, it was from like the top down, whichever one pulled it together when you're standing up. So,
Okay.
I think uh, uh, whichever one. I think it's bottom. But that was the diagnosis, and I don't right now. I'm in the process with the VA, so I probably will. But
Gotcha.
that hasn't happened yet. I actually have that appointment next Thursday, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. Kind of ready. So I'm sure I'll have some therapy and more like diagnostic type stuff in the next few months. So
Well, that's good that they're going to be taking care of it at this point. So since ultimately you got hurt while serving.
I did. It's all documented.
So let's talk a little bit about your journey from Army to training and then actually getting on a stage and competing. So talk a little bit about what that journey was like from having the injury, starting to do strength training, and then ultimately getting ready to step on stage and competing.
Yeah, so I actually, when I really got into resistance training, I liked the aesthetics. I wanted to look like, the bigger competitors. And so I started training kind of according to that. And it would have been about 2018, like the very, very beginning of 2018, I started an actual prep. So I was going to prep, and I didn't know really what division. It was just kind of like, my coach at the time was very much like, diet down and we'll see what you look like. Which I'm now like, my coach is kind of more like, let's aim for a certain division. But I ended up kind of being surprised that I was pregnant with my son. So we did not step on stage at that time. But it was definitely interesting. Looking back, I was training with a lot of imbalances because of my injury. And instead of confronting them head on, I was kind of avoiding them. So they were compounding a little bit. I was getting seen like chiropractor and like musculoskeletal stuff. But then I had my son, COVID shut down, everything happened. So finally in 2022, I went back at it and was like, all right, screw it. I'm gonna actually do it, step on stage. And I did. And I won overall in women's physique. So that was pretty cool. And I think next year I'm kind of shooting for probably step on stage again. These last 2 years have been very like up and down with all sorts of crazy stuff. So bodybuilding is not conducive when you have all sorts of life things going everywhere. So
Definitely not.
you have to have all that stuff in line before you even try to attempt a show. I have finances because it's expensive. So I think next year will be a good realistic like goal to get back on stage and maybe shoot for nationals. We'll see.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, bodybuilding is not cheap. I think I did a calculation between like training, suit, posing, day of stuff. It comes to like $6,000.
Oh,
easy.
I mean, if you're paying for a coach that's like doing nutrition and doing your workouts, it's easily $300-$400 a month. And then on top of that, you kind of have to be with them ahead of time so they can see how you diet. Because I could never imagine jumping in with a coach like, I want to prep right now. Like, I should never, ever. But yeah, you just take that calculation, and then it's like, I've seen some where like the NPC divisions are like $300 now to get into. I'm like, so
Yeah, I think the last time it was last year when I competed, I think it was like $175 per
Yeah, I
division.
just saw a buddy of mine, and it may be because the male divisions are different. I don't know. He literally, it was $300 per category. I was like, what? Plus
That's insane.
the initial like enrollment, you know. So that, and then your suit. Guys have an easier on that than the females do because our suits are freaking expensive.
Yep.
Oh, and then hair, makeup, tan. Oh my God, so much. So, and you don't
Yeah.
realize like the diet doesn't stop. And I think that was my biggest fuck up the first show was that I had enough food and enough diet and enough supplements to get to the show. And then I like did the show and was like, shit, I need to prep. And like, it was a mess.
Yeah. That post show, like, it's almost a period where if you don't have guidance beforehand, you feel lost. And it's like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Can I go back to normal?
Yeah.
Yeah, but not really.
And if you're on any kind of supplementation, like if you don't have a specific protocol to titrate you down back to like normal levels, even with like hormonal stuff like T3, T4, one of the biggest catastrophic things that I experienced after mine with my previous coach, she was just like, just wean off. I was like, okay. And I weaned off. Not weaning off at the pace I needed to be. And so my body just rebounded. And I was just like, well, I don't know what that means. Like, but I
Yeah.
realized, you know, sometimes coaches will say that because they don't know what that means either. They're just like, just work your way off of it. Like, so it's definitely important to find coaches that break down each little tiny thing instead of just be like, oh no, you got it. And it's like, I got it.
No, and that's also what I pay you to help me. Like,
exactly.
Post show is much of importance is getting to the stage.
It is.
And it's like you get off stage and it's like, oh, here's a meal plan, you know, have fun. But there's a whole nother aspect to it.
Yeah, like your hormones and your thyroid and just everything is such like so touchy. It's just touch and go. Like, and if you don't have something in place, even if you're a natural, like you have to have something in place to support your natural hormone production, or you will completely regret everything.
No, I completely agree there. So let's talk about your last prep. What are some positives from it? And then we could talk about a little bit of the negatives since we brought it up as well. So, you know, what things worked well for you, what things didn't work so well, and then what are you taking into the next prep coming up to implement to have a better overall experience, you know, on stage and then post show?
So I mean, obviously, one thing that went well, I won, so that was cool.
Yeah.
But looking back, you know, we did more of a modified keto route, and it worked, but it's not sustainable long term. And the thing with that too is that your carb sensitivity is so just shitty. Like, and if you have a coach that's like, well, you're carb sensitive, so and then restricts your carbs, just run. Like, that just makes it worse. And I think that's really what I dealt with afterward was because, you know, your fiber is carbs. And if you are keto long enough, you know, you need 20 to 25 grams of fiber minimum in order to just support your natural bodily functions. And like, if I don't get that, my body will not lose weight. It'll just cap out. And then the minute I start eating again, it just starts walking back down. And I know like peak week specifically, we dropped my carbs to a very scary level. And that meant it dropped my fiber. And I, you know, now my coach is cool in that like we don't really count trait macros. So like,
Okay.
I don't have that same fear this next time. But it definitely, the wheels came off like peak week. And my best photos that I think I'm most proud of were 2 weeks out. That's where I looked the best. I was gnarly, I was lean, and then peak week, I rebounded. I was holding water. I was like just going crazy. And then, you know, the other thing was that the Army got in the way. Our major, who, because he bodybuilt in the 80s, he knows how it goes. And so because he did okay, I'm going to do okay. So, and I told him, like, I can't go back on the trail for like, he wanted me to go 4 weeks to the day of my show. And I was like, dude, I need to go later. Like, I gotta have like 3 months to reverse and then I'll go.
Mhm.
And he wouldn't budge. So I had to basically condition my stomach for Army food the second I stopped prepping, which fucked my thyroid up so bad.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things I would have done differently, but I think that in the back of my mind really fucked it all up because I was like, I'm going to go to Benning or Fort Moore or whatever it's called now. But I was like, I'm going to go to Benning and I'm not going to be able to stomach any of this food because my body is so sensitive. But I think that was some of the things that didn't go as well. Especially, if you diet for a long time, you build up resistance to food and you build up allergies. And so the last 2 weeks as well, I started bloating when I ate chicken. I was like, this isn't.
That's not normal.
Yeah, and I was like, it's because I was having it so much, my body like started treating it like a toxin. So that, and then I think the next time, and my coach is really awesome now about this. You don't have to do androgenic supplements all the time, especially if you have a ton of testosterone. Like, it's a lot, and there's other things out there you can do that don't spike more testosterone. So I think the next time around, I didn't have any issues. Like, I didn't have side effects. I didn't have any of that, but I definitely noticed, like, if you do enough androgenic supplements or compounds, your insulin resistance is shitty. So that's another, but things that went well. I mean, I learned that I could do it, learned I could step on stage, learned what real hunger really feels like.
Yeah, you definitely do.
Yeah. And then, I kind of now have a game plan of how I want to go moving forward.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, all this is one, it's the experience, but it's also a learning experience of
Exactly.
what works, what doesn't work, what you don't want to do next time, what are you looking for in a coach, all the above. So,
Yeah.
That's okay. I definitely am looking forward to seeing you prep next year and getting to stage ready, because I've seen all the hard work you've put in, that you post on Instagram. It's gonna be, you're gonna look sick. So I can't wait to see it.
I'm excited. I definitely my body puts on mass so much easier than it cuts. So I'm dreading the cut, but I know my coach now, he's got it to where and I'm not working with him actively at the moment, but I will here soon. But I mean, he had me eating 200 grams of protein a day.
Oh
And
wow.
I was just chilling. I was comfortable and I was eating hella rice, hella carbs, and I was like, this is amazing. So it's nice, you don't have to chicken rice broccoli yourself to death. But you also don't have to do an extreme all fats, no carbs kind of thing. So
Yeah. I mean, that's it gets old and it gets tiring, and then it causes all the other issues that you talked about. Because even I had some issues post show where I tried to have a meal out and my stomach was not having it, and
yeah,
it'd be painful. I'd bloat.
yeah,
I'd be, in bad shape the rest of the night. So, all those small factors play into on stage and then post show, which, like I said, it gets neglected a little too often.
absolutely. And honestly, you don't realize how hard you have to train to keep the muscle mass. I think this time around, my training has changed so much, especially because my current coach is just go in there and train like a freaking animal. I'm like, okay. And then I realized there's a lot of unspent energy that you really, with progressive overload, you'd be surprised how much you actually can lift and push to build and maintain the muscle mass, especially when you cut. So I think that was a big shock to me, was how much muscle mass I actually lost um, throughout cutting. And that happens when you mess with T3 a lot too. T3 will lean you out, but it's leaning out everything. Muscle, fat, it does not, it has no way of knowing what it's leaning out. It's just leaning. Um, so that's one thing I'm kind of excited about this next round, is to have more of an informed knowledge sort of thing going into it, of how to maximize muscle while maximizing fat loss. So
Gotcha. Cool. That makes sense.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about you as a drill sergeant. and let's talk about that journey there, and then how your fitness experience was incorporated into being a drill sergeant. And I know you mentioned that you've done some rotations down at Fort Benning, which I think is still predominantly male, right? Or is it all male?
All male, basically.
Yep.
And there are a couple battalions that have like integrated male and female, now that females can do infantry and they have armor. But where I was at, it was all male. So
Cool.
Sure. Everybody wants a tough drill sergeant. So
Well, it's an interesting topic because
it is.
most people don't.
I'm not mad at it. So it was kind of my goal, throughout the military and since basic training. I wanted to be a drill, and I love to train people, in civilian and in all my jobs. I just love the training aspect. So drill sergeant school is like basic training all over again, just a little bit more like respect, but not by much. But it's cool when you go through it because you experience it and then you learn how to lead it, and then you experience it and learn how to lead it. Instead of just like, when we all went through, we're all just scared shitless, like just get to the next day, to the next chow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that the Army and drill sergeants and all that have gotten softer. I would venture to say that we haven't, but the fear aspect is a little less. So, I remember going through basic and I was just scared. Like, I was like, my drill sergeant is just going to yell at me about everything. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And now, I would get to my units, and I remember still feeling behind the curve on a lot of things because you just got yelled at and didn't know what you were doing. So now the focus is a little bit more of teaching you to trust your equipment, and building that rapport and the trust that we've done it, we know what we're talking about, and you're not going to die, like you're going to be okay. So I think that's where a lot of the stuff gets lost, and like, oh, they just want to be friends with the trainees. It's like, not at all. We need to calm them down a little bit. But yeah, as a drill, I really wasn't the screamy drill. Like, I'm very quiet. I say
Wow.
all shit, and then I like smoke you when you laugh. Which is kind of just me as a person. I just say like the sarcastic fucking random shit, and people are like, but that's how I was there, and it was an interesting experience because when I got out of drill sergeant school, it was literally as the post shutdown for COVID. We were the last full cycle. And then I went to Benning in August of that year.
Okay.
And that was kind of like trial by fire because, it's not Fort Jackson. It's not Fort Leonard Wood, you just hit the ground running, and it was infantry land, and I'm not an infantry MLS. So I'm a little baby drill. I'm a female, and I'm not an infantry. And I kind of walked in like this could go one of two ways, and I don't know which way it's going to go. And me and one other girl, she's a sergeant first class now. She may have got E8. I don't remember. She and I were walking through the battalion, and she's looking at all the photos, and I wasn't paying attention. And she stopped. She goes to Chavez. It's like, yeah, she's like, they're all men. I was like, what? She's like, there are no females on the pictures of any of the companies. And we're like, oh, all right. And so we sit down with the BC, and it was literally like the BC and the sergeant major. The sergeant major was like an old school guy. But I don't think he even realized he said it. He said, yeah, females, I don't have a problem with you guys. And we're like,
Wow.
and
What an introduction.
yeah, I was like, good. I don't think we're allowed to have a problem. But she and I kind of like got the rundown, and they're like, we're putting you with a company that we think will treat you the best. And we're like, okay. And honestly, it was the greatest time, arguably, of my entire life. Like, I met some of my closest friends. I'm still close friends with some of the guys there. They actually took us under their wing and included us and treated us as one of their own. They didn't alienate us. They didn't, write us off because we were females. They didn't write us off because we weren't infantry. And it was just one of the best experiences of my entire life. So, and I ended up extending and spending more time with them. So I was like, I don't want to leave. This is fun. And they gave us awards and stuff after we left. It was pretty cool. So it was cool to kind of like trailblaze, if you will, because they never had females. So it made our units look good back home. It made us feel good. And then, I'm still super close friends with quite a few of those people. So then I went back a couple times and it just wasn't the same because it wasn't my first. It wasn't my
Gotcha.
first. So
So, do you think that if you could have been a drill sergeant in an active duty status, like, you weren't in the reserves, would you have stayed in longer, or was it just this was the
okay.
time I did it and that was it?
I'd say yes, but my hip got in the way. I
Gotcha.
got lucky at betting that the guys were understanding that, I have a previous injury and I don't want to make drills look bad because I'm kind of at the rear. And so I kind of was having to, they were watching over me like when I did like the 6 mile with Oak and they were making sure I was okay. And then when they did the 12 mile, they were like, you drive the van. I was like, all right. Which it sucked, but it also like they don't like it. I don't mind it. Um, but it was definitely one of those things where I'm like, I couldn't do this active. I got asked even to go teach DSA and
Okay.
like teach the academy. And I wanted to do it, but I realized, how many times a year are they doing these rock marches that my hip doesn't like. And so I think that's really what made me be like, I think I'm ready to just get out. Like after I've done my time, I've done the reserve thing. They fucked with my health after my show, and I just need to let my hip like have a break.
Yeah.
So I had an opportunity to do an infantry reclass, and I wanted
Oh,
to do
wow.
it. But the 5 mile run followed by the ruck, I was just like, I don't think my hip will allow me to do it. So I think that was kind of the thing that kept me from going active. I did try to switch to active the first round. They were going to try to pull me to active, but the issue
Mhm.
was my MLS would have sent me to like a combat support hospital, and HRC would have just thrown me where they needed me and not where I wanted. So
Understood. Gotcha. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you're really passionate about being your drill sergeant, and it's unfortunate that your hip kind of held you back. But
yeah, it's
I thought about when I was still actively drilling about potentially being a drill sergeant, but um, it must be just an awesome experience to teach young soldiers
it is,
the
and
basic.
the reserves is cool too because depending on where you're at, where I was at was really cool. We were actually training candidates for the academy.
Okay,
So year round, I was kind of in a training status versus some other drill sergeant units that only go on the trail. Um, so I felt like, in a way, they treated us kind of like DSLs, like the instructors in the academy. Um, we just didn't have the fancy belt and all the other stuff. They talked about getting instructor badges for us, and I think that would have kept me in if I would have been able to do that. But
okay,
that's too much for the reserves to be able to do. So
yep, totally get that. So let's talk about that transition out of the military, and then talk about how you got into modeling as
okay,
well. Since I was able to see you kind of progress into your modeling career, which you seem super passionate about. So
that's fun.
definitely want to hear about it.
Sure. So getting out, I got out this past March on St. Patrick's Day, actually, and it was just kind of one of those things. I was tired of being told what to do. Like, I was
I
really
get it. I
tired
get it.
of PT tests. I was tired of having to run. And I was like, y'all are getting in the way now of my fitness stuff. And they always say, get more out from the army than you put in, or at least leave with something. And I was like, I gotta leave while I'm ahead. And then I ran out of things I wanted to do. I did drill. All the MOSs I wanted to reclass to were like high speed, and my hip says no. So I was like, I think I just need to let the door close and just move on with civilian life. Um, so it was pretty simple. I mean, I really wasn't drilling that much, and just kind of waited, got my orders, and got out. Um, I still have my gear. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, but oh, here if they ever want it back. And now I'm just in the process for the VA. So I'm hopeful that they give me a decent amount of compensation for how shitty my hip is sometimes.
Yeah.
Like even just moving into this spot, like I was going upstairs and I'm like, fuck, my hip hurts. Like this is crazy. Um, so that's been the transition out. It's been pretty simple. And now I live in San Antonio, which is like military capital of everything. So everywhere you go, they got discounts, they got all these things, and they want to talk, and it's cool. And I also got plugged into an organization called Fit Military London, where they're all veterans and current service members. We all just keep up with each other, and it's a really, really good organization. So that kind of keeps me socializing. But and then modeling. So I always kind of wanted to be a model, but they're always like, you're not size 0, 6 foot. So I was just like, whatever, I'm not going to be a model. But with bodybuilding is kind of how it took off for me because, you see all these bodybuilders doing photo shoots. And so during my prep, I started doing some more photo shoots. I did some before it and I liked it because I was like representing brands and I got some brand partnerships even before I knew really what I was doing. I was just like, let me take photos of these things and advertise. And the brands start sending you free stuff and you start working together. So it really, really took off while I was prepping because I have a lot more muscle mass than the average model, which allows photographers to get a different type of photo. Even if it's boudoir, it just looks different than a girl who's super, super skinny or, just anybody. And then my tattoos, kind of like people like that as well. Photographers like to try to like capture that. And so then it really just helped me cope with the different phases of bodybuilding. So cope with being super lean, cope with being not super lean, and just, embrace how I looked at all different phases. And then it kind of just morphed and morphed and morphed and turned into like, I'm thick and strong and can lift a lot of things, but I can also be feminine. And it's just kind of taken off. A lot of brands want to work with me now, and I get a lot of free stuff or partnerships or paid partnerships, whatever. So it's cool, but it's also cool to not be obligated to do anything. Like I don't have an agency.
Yes.
I'm not being told what to do. Anytime I like get into any situation where a brand starts like trying to control what you're putting out or what kind of person you are, you just cut ties. And that's been pretty cool because it's helped me figure out like who I am, what I stand for, and whatever's meant for me will find me. And so then I've connected with models and photographers who also share that same view, and it's really just opened the door to a lot of different opportunities. So
That's awesome. What are you planning for next in your modeling career? Like what is your, let's say, a year from now, where do you see yourself?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It's one of those things where I just kind of got into it and just kind of roll with it. And just random things happen. Like I'm traveling more and now like travels have become business expenses, which is pretty cool, tax write-offs and such. Um, so maybe in a year, more travels. I have a lot of
Okay.
photographers all over the country that want to shoot. So I'm like, it'd be cool to kind of like go on tour for a bit and travel and shoot with a lot of people. But I kind of just take it one day at a time, really. And I try to pace myself because it's very easy to burn out and it's very easy to like overbook yourself. And because I think there was a time where I was shooting 2 to 3 times per weekend. And
Oh wow.
yeah, and there would be days where I had like double headers, like leave one, go to another shoot. And you lose your weekends, you lose your downtime. And so it's definitely a balancing act of balancing civilian job with modeling and mental state. So, and the gym, because if you're shooting too much, you don't have time for the gym. So it's just a very delicate balancing act. So I think a year from now, my goals are more fitness related. So then the modeling will just kind of morph with that.
Gotcha. Cool. Do you ever envision yourself being in modeling full time, like that replaces your full time income, or is this just going to be a side thing that you do, and do you
I
balance it between that and fitness?
I think it'll be a side thing. It's kind of like music for me. I never want my hobby to become my job because you'll end up hating it.
Yep.
There was a while, I was before modeling, before fitness, before anything, I was a musician, and I looked at being a music major, looked at doing performance and all that, and I just realized like this is my outlet and I'm going to hate it by the end of this. And so modeling for me has been the same thing, that I like what it stands for, I like who I am, but I don't ever want to have to solely rely on it.
Got it. No, that makes sense. I've been there too, where your passion becomes your job, and then 6 months later, you can't stand it anymore.
Yep. Yep.
So cool. So let's switch back gears to fitness in general. So what is your go-to workout, your favorite workout, or some nutrition tips that you follow on a day-to-day basis?
My go-to workout, I would probably say I start every workout, if I can, with cable lateral raises and cable rows of some sort. Usually like mid-lat, where you're not fully extending your lats all the way, you're kind of like doing more of a tuck. Because I've just found I've had the best growth and results from making sure my delts and lats are warmed up every workout, even if it's legs, even if it's, I don't know, chest. Like you don't realize how much you engage your lats and your shoulders for everything. So I'll have heavier deadlifts as long as I warm up with rows. So that's kind of like one of my favorite things. And my favorite workouts, I don't know. I would have to say it's either pull downs because I love my lats. I've built my lats
Okay.
very wide. Or deadlifts because I've worked really hard. Or incline bench. I like that too. So
Okay.
I know everybody's like,
It's more like deadlifts, squats,
yeah,
maybe some rows, but that's an interesting one.
yeah, I love incline bench. It's interesting. I dumbbells or incline. And then I don't know, nutrition. Honestly, like hit a gallon a day, regardless of whatever your excuses are. Carry a 64-ounce bottle, carry a gallon bottle, it doesn't matter, and just finish it. Because you don't realize how much water you actually need on a daily basis. I think when I'm in prep, I go through a gallon and a half a day.
Oh, wow.
And I'm still thirsty. So you don't realize how much your body needs to just flush out toxins, especially with our current food situation in the United States. So
Yep.
that, and then I would just say um, electrolytes. That's kind of the other thing. A lot of people complain about cortisol and its diseases, absence, all the other things around cortisol. And a lot of it can be solved with water and electrolytes. So when you're drinking a shit ton of water, you need to also slam an electrolyte packet or drink a Pedialyte or something like that, because you don't realize how many processes in your body run off of those electrical, it's basically an electrical circuit. So
Yep.
the more electrolytes you have to balance out your water, the more your hormones will level, the more your muscles will fire, the more you'll recover. So yeah, that basically water and electrolytes.
Do you have a go-to electrolyte that you use?
The LMNT. Those are,
Me too.
yeah. I'll put the unflavored ones in my pre-workout even.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing. So
Have you tried the chocolate salt one yet?
Yeah. It's not awful, but I don't know if I need to drink it cold or warm. Because I want to drink it like warm, like hot chocolate,
Mm-hmm.
but it never like fully, it's never exactly what you want to see.
Yeah.
But
I tried putting it in coffee once, and I almost spit the coffee out. It was rough.
that's a bad combo. I tried that too. I like the orange, I like the grapefruit, I like the raspberry. Kind of berry and citrus I usually go for, but the unflavored, even in like a flavored pre-workout, I'll always add salt to pre-workout anyways. Like I don't have that, that's almost everything we salt, but usually deepens the flavor of your pre-workout or protein shakes. Chocolate protein shake, add salt to it, it tastes better. So
good to know. Have you tried their carbonated drinks yet?
No, I haven't. I just saw that they had those. I was like,
yeah,
so.
They're pretty good. Especially, I used to pound energy drinks, and I've tried to cut down my intake, and those are a great replacement because it still has the carbonated taste, and they're flavored, and they have like 10 calories in them.
Yeah. During drill sergeant school, I was literally drinking 3 bags a day plus pre-workout. I don't know how I did it. Like, I don't know how I did it. And now I barely can do like a pre-workout and a coffee. That's it. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
It's one of those things where it's like adrenaline kicks in and caffeine kicks in, and we're just
I don't know. It's just different. Like, I was running on 4 hours of sleep and I was good. Like, if I were to try to run on 4 hours of sleep and that much energy drinks right now, I don't know what I would do. So it's just, you're a different human.
yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more there.
Yeah.
I used to work night shifts too, and I would pound like 3 energy drinks a night, and like I probably would have a heart attack now if I tried to do that.
I cannot imagine. Like that, and then, growing up, I barely drink like a Dasani water bottle, one per day. I don't know how I did it. Now I'm like, if I don't drink water, I'm crashed for like 3 days.
Yeah.
So
It's amazing how your body changes as you get older, and
exactly.
stuff that you would do, you become intolerant to.
Yep.
So, all right, let's go to our last question. So, between being a mom, modeling, working out, full-time job, how do you stay motivated with all those things, and how do you juggle all those things to stay on track?
Motivation is fleeting. Like, some days it's there, some days it's not. I think being able to recognize when you are close to burnout or you're doing too much or your body's like, bro, I need a freaking break. And being willing to step back, not step away, but step back and give it that break has been kind of the last year to 2 years for me because I used to train 6 days a week and my cortisol was crazy. I knew nothing about cortisol at the time. But I've learned that your body's not going to lose weight or fat if it's in a stressed out, inflamed state. So getting your stress and inflammation down is kind of the key to everything working right. And so that's kind of where, with modeling, with being a mom, with fitness, you have to adjust as needed. If my kid starts acting a fool and I need to be home with him more, my workouts are going to have to change to accommodate that. But that may only be a phase. And that's, a lot of people think, oh, well, I have to stop altogether because I can't do it. You can. You just might have to back off another day in the gym. You might have to go a little later than you wanted to go. Your diet might suffer, but if you can try to hit your basic controllables of protein and water and just healthy enough of that, like, you can manage it. So I think just adjusting your goals to the phase that you're in is the biggest way and best way to not run out of motivation, to be able to have the discipline to just keep showing up, even if you're like hitting 4 workout or 4 movements in the gym for like 20-30 minutes and you gotta go. It's better than not go. So that's kind of where I kind of just adjust across the board. When I start to feel exhausted, I'm like, sorry, I'm not shooting this weekend. Like, sorry, I'm taking the whole month off. Like, that's what I say when you're slightly self-employed. You can figure out schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's definitely being able to recognize that ahead of time and make small adjustments instead of just cutting something out completely. And that's, I think, what society does wrong is that they're like, oh, I'm stressed out, I'm tired, I'm going to eliminate one thing. It's like, no, just back off of it a little bit. So that, and then, what was your second question? That's motivation. And if I answered them.
Yeah, no, I think you did. But no, I agree with you. Balance and consistency is key. There's times where I don't want to go to the gym, but I still go, and I back off of some things because I don't feel right, or something's tired. And I wish more people would implement that where it's not I just don't feel like going, so I'm not going to go. You could still go and still be productive,
And
even if you have to modify in some way.
yeah, and there are things, that even if you don't feel like going, there are days I'm like, I don't feel like going, and I don't go. But I know that means I have to go tomorrow. So
Mm-hmm.
if I don't feel like going tomorrow, it's tough shit. Like I have to show up. And that I think is what people struggle with the most is that you get into a pattern of, oh, I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to go. Well, I didn't go yesterday, but I don't feel like it today. Like you made a choice. And now if you feel worse tomorrow, you're going to go while feeling worse. And that's just it.
Yep.
But 9 times out of 10, you end up feeling better when you go. And
1,000,000%.
yeah, so, and the thing with photo shoots too is that if I, it's exhausting. It can be very tiring. I've got it to where now, like, I know who my more tiring photographers are, like, not in a bad way. It's just the shoots are more intense or more, like, intensive and posing is more intense. So I can kind of budget my energy accordingly, and that'll adjust when I train. So if I'm going to be tired and working out, basically doing yoga while I pose and do photo shoots, then I know I'm going to take a break from the gym that day and hit it tomorrow. So just that
Cool.
time management and schedule. I don't want to say schedule your life around the gym, but too many people say they don't have time. It's like, I've hit really good workouts in 30 minutes. And if you have 30 minutes, you have 30 minutes. Just so.
Yep.
So, or go
Yeah,
for
I
a
mean,
30-minute walk. Like, it's not that hard. You just have to choose it. So,
nope. I mean, an hour a day is about 4% of 24 hours. So you're telling me you don't have 4% of your day to go to the gym. And it's even less than that if you're at 30 minutes. So
yep.
It's totally possible. It's just, I tell people, pretend it's a work meeting and it's on your calendar and you have to show up.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a prior engagement. Sorry, I can't do this. I gotta go to the gym first. That's it. And people look at you weird. They're like, what? But when you start making that a habit, people are like, oh, wow, like she's prioritizing that. Okay. So, yeah, it's just about being intentional, really. That's all it is. As long as you're intentional with your workouts, as long as you're intentional with your diet, nutrition, as long as you're intentional with sleep, you can balance pretty much anything.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. This is why we go.
So that's it. Exactly. So lastly, how can people find you on social media? How can they find your modeling work? Can you let us know? And then I'll also include this information within the show notes and then description on YouTube.
Yeah, for sure. I'm most active on Instagram. My Instagram is my last name, Chavez, with Alyssa instead of Alyssa. It's all one word. I also have a backup Instagram. It's Chavez Alyssa 2.0. Super original. And anybody else who says they're me, they're not me. So don't get scammed. And then my TikTok is the same name, Chavez Alyssa. I have a YouTube. I just don't post on it. I should. Same name. TikTok's kind of where I post a lot more of my workout videos. Instagram tends to be the balance between the modeling life and workouts. I also have an Instagram channel where I post my actual workouts with like a mirror selfie or something like that. And people subscribe to it, but it's not like the paid subscription. It's just like an open channel kind of group chat sort of thing. So I try to do that so people get, their free chicken workouts. So they can't be like, well, I didn't know what to do in the gym. Like, bro, I sent you the workout.
There you go.
And I didn't realize, fun sidebar on that, I didn't realize people actually were like paying attention to those things until somebody out here in San Antonio was like, why haven't you posted your workouts in 4 days? I'm like, fair. And he's like, I'm waiting. I was like, okay, let me do that then. So I try to do that too, so people don't, people can kind of eliminate the, well, I don't know what to do in the gym. I don't have a plan. Well, I just gave you one. So,
yep,
very safe.
Sure. Cool. And then what about anything else with your modeling? If people want to find your photos of modeling, is it mostly just on your Instagram?
Yeah, most of it's on my Instagram. I do have like a paid subscription site. It's not like OnlyFans, but that's where a lot more of my boudoir modeling is, just because I don't post it openly. But a lot of that stuff's on there, and that's linked on my Instagram. So That, and then all the brands that I work with and my discount codes and everything are also linked on my Instagram too. And my Facebook, you can also kind of follow and subscribe. It's just my first and last name. But it's also like cross posting with Instagram and all that stuff. So
Cool.
okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll include that in our show notes here. But thank you very much for joining me today and talking through your different experiences with modeling, being a drill sergeant, all the above. Super nice to finally talk to you again. It's been quite a bit.
Been a while. I know.
Hopefully we can meet up, in the near future here if I come down to San Antonio or whatnot. But thanks again for joining me today on the podcast, and we'll talk again soon.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, take care. Bye.